Now, the 2021 Jazz and Classical Encounters Festival taking place at Spier Amphitheatre. Some of the best South African jazz and classical musicians. This special edition will be paying tribute to many artists who have passed on in the last 12 months, and more specifically legendary soprano Mam Sibongile Khumalo and renowned Cape Town pianist Andre Petersen. Now, to share some of the event details and what we can look forward to is event owner Aymeric Peguillan and artist Elinor Speirs. Lady and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Aymeric, you've been working on the show for the past 3 years. What still excites you about putting this show together?
Well, as you can imagine, it's been a tough 2 years with all the restrictions in place, but we are soldiering on and protecting the arts and the possibility for people to engage directly with artists in a beautiful setting, and obviously respecting as much as possible the COVID restrictions. And that was always going to be the plan for us in any case, to have a 50% full amphitheatre. So we're really hoping to have this full capacity under those conditions. And we have, as you said, an amazing lineup of artists once again this year. Starting with Bokani Dyer, who's going to come with his trio. Remember Bokani Dyer, the neo-native, is a Summer Award winner. We have Zandile Mzazi, a beautiful soprano, who's currently in La Bohème at the Cape Town Opera, but who's going to be with us and paying tribute to Mam Sibongile Khumalo. We have Elinor Speirs, who's with us here today, who's an amazing violinist based in New York, but we have the great luck of having her here around with her quintet. Kathleen Tagg was also flying from New York, amazing pianist and a great collaborator in the arts with Andre Petersen in the past, recording a superb album together. And then to close, and certainly not the least, Spier Amphitheatre, who is coming to release 2 of his new albums that he recorded in Switzerland recently. So it's going to be packed with amazing South African talent, amazing South African creativity, and recent material being played, and celebrating also those great artists who unfortunately left.
Listen, I'm salivating at the idea of the Spier Amphitheatre. Elinor, let's talk about what we can look forward to from your performance.
Sure, I have an original suite, a 4-movement suite, different kinds of jazz, classical, and avant-garde coming together. And then I have an original combination of South African and Brazilian jazz called Brasafa, and then one tune by Brad Shepik, who's a wonderful New York-based jazz guitarist. So yeah, the quintet's sounding amazing. They're sounding so tight at rehearsals. I'm very excited to see how the South Africans I'm playing with are bringing their own thing into it, and they're playing it so brilliantly, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, talk to us about the process of curating this and making sure that it all comes together on stage. What was the thought process behind that?
I'm so sorry.
Elinor? Let's
You're
talk about her
welcome to
performance first. Let's talk about her performance, and then we'll bring Aymeric then into curating the entire show.
Well, I think the hardest thing for me was to find players who enjoy those 3 styles. So my music is very much a combination. You have to be able to play the kind of angular, modern, contemporary classical music. You have to be able to play over chord changes, and you have to be able to swing, and you also have to be able to play free avant-garde, which not everybody, not even all jazz musicians like. So the hardest thing was to find people who were adept at all 3, or who were open to kind of combining the 3. So I looked quite hard, and I'm so excited. The musicians that I have are just so brilliant. Even if they don't all have a background in classical or a background in avant-garde, they're just brilliant. So I think that was a big part of it. And then also having the opportunity to have original music that's it's not covers, it's not particularly easy, I would say. I think it is very listenable, but to have the opportunity to have original cutting-edge music played at a festival like this is just kind of a unicorn. It's unreal. So I'm very grateful to be part of this production.
Aymeric, is that what you were going for when you were planning this festival? You see what Elinor has just said, a very avant-garde, classical music, jazz as well. Is that what you were trying to achieve with putting together this festival?
Yeah, the idea is threefold. The first is to be able to present some recent works by South African artists, and that's the second leg. South African artists, South African talents who are making waves in the classical world and in the jazz world, and to have them on the same stage, alternately on the same day, so to bring different audiences together as well. That's a bit the similar concept that we had with Andre Petersen actually on the When Ballet Meets Jazz concept, bringing a ballet audience together with a jazz audience. So here we're bringing a classical audience with a jazz audience, and we see there's actually a lot of interest, a lot of curiosity from people to discover new music, free expression, as Elinor said. It's very important to us. I'm not directing the artist in terms of what they should be playing. I think it's very much their call in terms of the recent work that they've done and what they want to present. So there's going to be a bit of free. There's going to be some great classical music. There's going to be some solo. There's going to be some ensemble. There's going to be some classical South African jazz with Fea Faku. Some very strongly rooted jazz, as well as Bokani Daya, and all these artists have a strong connection with the two artists that we try to celebrate as well, in Andre Petersen and Mam Sibongile Khumalo. So I think a beautiful musical feast in a beautiful setting as well.
I want to talk about that. Why was it important that you pay tribute to these artists in this way?
Well, the best way that we can celebrate artists who have departed is by playing their music, by playing music that connects us to them, to remember them in the best possible way. And here we have two artists among many others, and I don't want to forget the others at all. The arts industry has suffered tremendously over the last few years, losing a lot of people. But these two artists were also great educators, and I think we need to remember them for that as well. They have played a huge role in educating young musicians. They are an inspiration to many musicians, including some of which will be on stage. Bokani Daya had a very strong connection with Andre Petersen. In fact, the last recording of Andre Petersen was done with Bokani Daya on the House on the Hill for live streaming. Zandile Mzazi has been very strongly inspired by Mam Sibongile during all of her career until now. Same with Fea Faku, who had a connection with actually both of them. Kathy as well, and I'm sure Elinor, although she's not based here, has been very strongly influenced as well by both of them, who were navigating between the classical world and the jazz world. So it's our best way of paying tribute to them on this occasion.
Elinor, speaking about working with people and inspiration, speak to us about working with, you've got Bryden Bolton on bass, I think it's Bethru van Skalwyk on piano, and then on sax it's Marco Fransman. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Bryden I had worked with before, excuse me. We had done a few things with his trio at the Mahogany Room, or Straight No Chaser, I think it changed its name. And so he was my only contact that I had actually played with before. Obviously, I'd heard of Mark Fransman, who's a huge celebrity here in the jazz world and wonderful man too. So great to work with him. And Brathu I hadn't met before, but I went to a jam session a few weeks ago, and everyone was sounding really great, but he got up on stage and I was like, who is that? He definitely he has something that is global, and I think he could really go places. So I'm very excited about him as a new kind of younger talent. And then Jono Sweetman, I also hadn't met him, but at our first rehearsal he just blew me away. He's fantastic. So yeah, very excited to play with all of these musicians.
Aymeric, why does this concept work? You touched on it a bit earlier about how the previous year you put jazz and ballet together. Now it's classical music and jazz. Why does this mix mash work?
Is that
well, I think it works because it's about beautiful music, whether we like or we prefer certain genres of music. I think when we have excellence on stage, when we are about to witness amazing artists, exploring new avenues, taking us along in that journey, making us share their emotions and their feelings. I think, you know, it's a working recipe. I mean, I don't like the word recipe in the case of an improvised music or even classical music, of course, but it's the way to go. People are curious. People want to discover new things. I think the fact that these are all South African artists also makes it particularly interesting. You know, there's a lot of South African artists who are more known internationally than they are actually in South Africa. I was a couple of nights ago at the new Wits Auditorium watching Can You See Them Tetwa, and she's absolutely mind-blowing. She's a flutist, a young flutist who is making waves internationally. She is absolutely extraordinary. So there's a lot of interest, I think, generated by this, and I think, you know, musicians are curious by nature. You know, all the musicians that will be on this stage are not specific to one genre. They regularly explore, they regularly navigate and collaborate with musicians who are themselves influenced by other music. So I think it's a very inspiring way of working within the art sector and trying to bring, you know, people together. And we need that solidarity as well at this moment, particularly because, you know, we're going through such a tough time.
All right, Aymeric and Elinor, thank you so much for talking to us. I wish I could be in Cape Town this next weekend, so because this sounds like it's going to be an amazing place. And I mean, it's at the Grand Open Air Amphitheatre at the Spier Wine Farm in Stellenbosch, and it's the setting for this wonderful event on the 4th of December that features two of the most endearing musical genres, namely jazz and classical music. All right, let's take a quick ad break. Stay with us.